What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and we are here today with a review for Married to Medicine, season 8, I believe this is, episode 1, and it's titled Breaking Out of the Bubble. So, yeah, good to see, I was watching the episode, and I was like, there's something different about this season so far. I was like, there's something I'm missing. Well, not really missing. I was like, it's something different. And then it finally dawned on me about at the 40-minute mark. I realized no Mariah and no Quad. I was like, oh, wow. It's really, I know Quad comes in at some point in the season. But for this first episode, we don't have to see Mariah or Quad. And we don't have to hear about the drama between those two. It's nice. I was happy. I was so happy. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the review, shall we? All right, you guys. So much like with all the other, black shows that we have, we discussed the whole situation with COVID. Now, I knew with Married to Medicine, it would definitely come up with these being doctors. Definitely, we would get some COVID stuff. And then we also talk about, George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter. And the one thing that I love about the doctors on this show, they always give back to the community. They always do things to, shed light on things. So I do love that about them. Like when they go on their cast trips, they always do something to help the community. So I love that. So Dr. Damon was having, a drive-through where people could come through and get, I don't know if it was rapid testing, but they could get their COVID test. And I was like, that is really a good thing, like I know here in my, in Dallas where I'm at, it was just at the beginning part of COVID, it was really kind of hard to find somewhere to go get you a COVID test. And then, a good chunk of them, like there's one place right by my apartment, they charge $99 to do a COVID test. And it's like, that is a lot of fucking money. And then if you do the rapid test, and that's even more. So definitely a good look for them. And I also do love the fact that they have the face shields on with the mask. I'm like, finally people are wearing it the correct way. So then Heavenly is talking to Jackie and she's asking Jackie, like, why is Simone not here? So we find out that since the reunion last season that Jackie and Simone have not had a conversation with each other, that, actually we'll talk about that in a little bit deeper about Jackie and Simone. But at this point, Jackie nor Heavenly have heard from Simone since the reunion filmed in December of last year. And at this point, they are in mid-February, actually like mid-February when they were talking about this, which was a year ago now. Damn, it's been a year since they filmed this shit. Wow. Oh yeah, that is right. Okay, that is right. The schedules for Bravo shows got thrown off because of COVID. Because Married to Medicine usually comes back in November. Because I think they usually film concurrently with the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Or before Atlanta. Okay, so let's move on, you guys. All right, you guys. So it's not gonna be a lot in this episode. I think the chunk of everything comes at the end of the episode. But first, we're talking about Simone. So we all know Simone is, the OBGYN. She's still working. My hats go off to everybody, all of them. My hats go off to Simone, to Jackie, to Dr. Damon, Contessa, Scott, the new girl Anila, her husband, Eugene. My hat goes off to all of them. Even Aiden and was he a therapist? I think he's a therapist. So, but my hats go off to the doctors that are in the hospital taking care of people during COVID. My hats go off to them. I applaud them and I salute them so much. Thank you guys for everything that you do. So my hats definitely go off to them. So we see Simone. She goes home. And her son, which one is that? That's Michael. Michael and Miles, but that's Michael. Michael graduated. He graduated from high school. I do feel bad for the kids who their senior, especially if they were a senior, their senior years were just disrupted last year. They didn't get to go to prom. They didn't actually. Some of them didn't even have a. They didn't have an actual graduation. So my hats go off. I really do feel so bad for those kids. But my hat is off to those. Off to them as well, because even during that trying time, they were able to still graduate. So that is something to be proud of. Saying you can look back on that and say, my senior year experience was disastrous to say the least, but throughout it all, I still made it through. So Michael is actually getting ready to go to college, and he's going to college. He's going to a predominantly white college, and I think she said it's in a small city in Tennessee. Ugh. It's interesting because my hometown is small, and we'll talk about that later too. My hometown is small, but I know everybody in my hometown, so I didn't ever experience anything. I did experience racism, which we'll talk about that later, but the college that I went to, my college was predominantly white, and I had, most of my friends from college are white. There were, I do have some friends from college that are black, but that college was predominantly white. And I didn't experience any racism there. I didn't experience anybody. Everybody was friendly to me. Now, when I did graduate college and my first job out of college, I worked in another small city that was, maybe 20 miles from my home. That was a country redneck hick town. I was so afraid. Well, I was afraid because it's a country rural area, and you didn't really see. In the town, you didn't really see a lot of black people there, because most of the black people didn't live in that city. They lived on the outskirts of the city. So at nights, I would have to make do drive. So I worked for errands. So if, like my boss would say, because we have to go, if we couldn't make contact with people, you have to do a field visit to them. And you have to do a field visit during the day and at night. And I had to do it by myself. I'm like, oh no. Like there was this one, there were these two people that I had to go to their houses, and it just looked like a scene from one of those horror movies. It just looked like a scene from a horror movie. So what I would do, because you're supposed to go out and knock on the door. If you don't get them, you're supposed to, put a thing on their door, let them know that you came. I didn't do that. I didn't do any of that because it's pitch black. There are no lights on this street. There's nobody on the street. It's a dirt road, and I'm like, yeah, no. So what you had to do was, so what I did was, I would take the car, because the car had a GPS in it. I would take the car, turn the car off, sit there for a few minutes, lock the door, and then start the car up and leave, because I didn't want to deal with that shit. Because I'm like, I don't want no racist shit coming, because it's not that far from the city called Jasper, with this black man. The white men hung him. Well, they drug him. I'm like, that's not going to be me. So, no, thank you. But let's move on, you guys. All right, you guys. Next up, let's talk about Toyah. Now, I will say the scene with Toyah wasn't a whole lot. Looking at this scene with Toyah and her in this house, I'm like, damn. I can't get over the fact that Toyah has put the house on the market. This is her dream home. But if it sells for, I'm not judging Toyah. I'm not counting Toyah's pockets. It is what it is. If they want to sell the house, go for it and sell it. Just make sure that you dot all your I's and cross all the T's when it comes to the selling of this house, so that Uncle Sam doesn't come after your ass again. Just saying. So, like I said a few minutes ago, I gave, the kudos to all the doctors. I definitely got to give kudos to Eugene. For him to be an emergency room doctor, I know he saw so much. because he was talking about how people would come in there complaining of chest pain, and you just think it's a heart attack, but then when you take their temperature, they have 104, temperature. And then he's talking about people on ventilators, taking people off of ventilators and stuff. I know that had to be a tricky and trying time, the beginning stages of COVID. Like I said, once again, my hat definitely goes off, to all of them. Once again, thank you guys so much for everything that you guys have, that you guys did. Because I just couldn't imagine what that's like, working those long shifts and, having patients and then dealing with, having the patients with COVID and then especially having the patients pass away and there's nothing you can do. They can't be with their family. They can't have anybody around them to say goodbye to them. Man, I mean, just literally sitting back and thinking about that, like, I know that has to take a toll on them because a person is in a hospital with COVID, they're dying and their loved ones are not able to say goodbye to them. And then, I know they were, doing FaceTime for people, but that still doesn't help. Like, you want to be there with your loved one as they transition over. Yeah, my heart goes out to, everyone that had to deal with that. Now, Toyah, it sounded like you were complaining. And I'm just like, why is she? I get it. COVID came in and, messed up everybody's lives. 100%. I see that. I know that. But your husband is doing something good. I know you would like to go on a date. I know you want to celebrate your anniversary, but girl, shut up. Period, point blank. Let's move on. All right, you guys, next let's talk about Dr. Contessa. Again, like I said, you guys, this episode, we're just getting reintroduced to the ladies, so it wasn't a whole lot to talk about, and it definitely wasn't a lot to talk about with Scott and Contessa. I will say, congratulations to Contessa. She finished her program and she got her degree. I forgot what the degree was in. I didn't take that down. You can leave it in the comment section below what the degree was. It's interesting to see them when they come home from the hospital, because I have friends who work in the medical field, and when they would go home, that's literally what they would do. Take their clothes off at the door and go hop in the shower. I was actually thinking about this the other day because I went back to school for nursing. Had I stuck with that, which I'm probably going to go back for it eventually, had I stuck with that nursing degree, I would have graduated right just before COVID hit. Because my little cousin, she graduated just before COVID hit. She had been out of school for maybe a few months before COVID hit. Yeah, so we were because I was with me already having a degree. For nursing, for my nursing degree, I was already a junior in a junior year, so I would have been finished prior to COVID, and I would be going through the same thing that these people are going through. So Contessa and Scott have his niece and her girlfriend with the kids. They're doing, I guess she's a holistic person with the crystals and everything. Now, I don't understand the crystals, so if anybody is familiar with that, please let me know. Please educate me and enlighten me on that stuff. Like, what do the crystals do? Because I really don't know anything about the crystals. And it seems like it's, really interesting, but yeah, like I said, one much with them. I was actually trying to stretch that out. But let's move on. All right, guys. Next up, let's talk about Dr. Jackie. So, you guys remember last season, Dr. Jackie and Curtis was, fixing up that house. So the house is finished, and Curtis comes in from the store, and he was talking about how in the store people were not wearing their mask, and it just people it makes it seems as if people weren't taking it like it was real. Which that's still the case to this day. There are people who will still say that, it's not as bad as they want to make it seem, or stop listening to the mainstream media. You guys know what group of people say that. I don't have to say it. You guys know it. And it's ridiculous. Like even here in Texas, like, what's today? Today is the 7th. So tomorrow's the 8th, 9th, 10th. So in 3 days here in Texas, our mask mandate is going to be lifted. Yeah, on Wednesday. Yeah, on Wednesday. Our mask mandate is going to be lifted on Wednesday. Like, I just wish that people would stop making this such a political thing. They politicized wearing the mask. They politicize everything. It's not. Wearing the mask has nothing to do with politics. Wearing the mask has nothing to do with your civil liberties, your rights as a human. And then the people who want to talk about, it's my right to wear a mask. It's my right to wear a mask. How do I want to say this? I'm going to try to say this in the nicest way I can. And I'm really trying to think about how to say this and not come off rude and offensive. I mean, I don't really care if I come off rude and offensive, but I just want to say it in the nicest possible way that I can. So people keep saying, it's attacking, it's my, you telling me you're taking away my rights by saying that I have to wear a mask. But how do you feel about coming in like, you could be asymptomatic. You could come in contact with someone who's asymptomatic. They pass it on to you. Then you go home to your elderly grandparents or parents and pass it to them and possibly kill them. So it's your right to not wear the mask. So was it their right to get the COVID from you if you got it? Like, and please, like, people, it's the who supporters from me that I would say, well, what is it? They want to talk about the rates of death and whatever. We don't know what the long-term effects of COVID are. Like, we don't know that. So they want to say stop listening to the mainstream media, but yet instead you get your news from a crackpot. And I mean, it's the alt-right people. I'm cool if you're a Republican and you feel you have your beliefs. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the alt-right people, for me, that spew what he spews. And then, you attack Fauci and everything like that. It's just, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, you guys, but it just bothers me that they politicized the hell out of this, wearing a mask. And then, you want to say it's your right to, it should be your right to wear a mask or not wear a mask. Well, how do you feel about, women's right to, have an abortion if they choose to? Oh, see, that's when the contradiction comes into play. That's when the contradiction comes into play. We're not going to get into that. But, so talking about Jackie, she's talking to Curtis, telling him about having a 50th birthday party for Dr. Damon. And this will be the first time that she sees Simone. Because, she sees Simone at the hospital, but it's a hey girl situation for them. And I like how, Curtis told her, like, one of y'all gotta, be the bigger person. And if you guys want to salvage this relationship and this friendship, one of you has to speak to the other. And if that's you do it. If it's her, but one of you has to stop being so stubborn and actually speak to the other person. Totally 100% agree with Curtis. Can't believe I actually said that, but let's move on, you guys. All right, you guys, and then we're going to wrap the episode up with Heavenly. So like I said, Heavenly is having a 50th birthday party for Dr. Damon. So we see as the ladies are getting ready to head to the party. So in one car, it is Jackie and Contessa. The other car, it is Toyah, the new girl, Anila. We have Toyah. I didn't say you. Move, Siri. We have Toyah, Contessa. Nope. I'm sorry, you guys. I got a message on my phone, but it didn't come through to the... All right. once again, in the one card, it's Contessa and Jackie. In the other card, it's Anila, it's Toyah, and it's Simone and the men. So we have Anila's husband. I think his name is Kieran. We have Eugene and we have Cecil. So, Contessa and Jackie are talking about she and Simone. And Simone is talking with Anila and Toyah about Jackie. Now, I'm gonna have to call Simone out on on this, because I feel like when it comes down to Simone is trying to have Jackie pick a side when it comes to she and Heavenly. Do I believe that Jackie should pick a side? Absolutely not. I don't think that Jackie should pick a side in the situation. That stuff that happened last season between Jackie, Simone, and Heavenly, it should have been just between Heavenly and Simone when she called Cecil a bitch. Like, that should have been between you guys. Now, I get where I do get, holding somebody accountable for what they said. That's one thing. But picking a side is a completely different thing. So Jackie could have, if Jackie wanted to, Jackie could have definitely said to, Heavenly, like, Heavenly, you were out of, I don't remember if did she even do that or not? I don't remember. But she definitely could have said to, Heavenly, like, Heavenly, that was a low blow. Like, you should apologize to her. But as far as getting involved and picking a side, I don't think she should have done that. But I do feel that Simone and Jackie both need to sit down with each